think that's really comes back to why are we here? How do we individually make meaning? And how free do we want to be? And freedom means work and change and stepping out of comfort. And comfort is really hard to resist. They just know that there's got to be something.
There's got to be a better way. That deeper soul self that's saying, that's guiding, that's leading, that's inspiring the healing, because that deeper soul self knows that trauma is a doorway, a pathway to healing, and that's why you're here to to heal that.
Parts of your brains is overreacting, underreacting, depending on what's happening to you. So you're just in a battleground. And so you have to address that on a body level of how do you get this person out of survival so they can even make sense. Your personality it's formed around who do I need to be to survive this environment. So as an adult, a person may have some crazy quirks, do some interesting things, but it worked really well in childhood, but it's not transferable as an adult.
Hello and welcome to The Higher Vibe. I'm your host, Jean Roorda. I'm having conversations with psychic friends. Today I have with me Dr. Ashley Davis. She's a psychotherapist and she has an extensive background in intuitive healing and the psychic arts. So I am excited to talk with you today, Ashley. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So good to have you here. It's really good to see you again. And what I love about your work is that it really integrates the whole person, right? You're working with people on a spiritual level. Sometimes they might not even realize that because you're really addressing and meeting people where they're at on a body level as well as a psychotherapist. And that's brilliant and beautiful. And it's so integrated. I think the world needs a lot of that. So I'd love for you to share with us how that works for you, how your background in intuitive healing has supported and merged with your work as a psychotherapist. How did those work together for you?
Well, I guess I see it all as healing work, whether it's body, spiritual, whatever it may look like. And one informs the other. We were talking earlier, and a lot of the work that I do are with people who have extensive trauma, childhood trauma. And so when you are faced with trauma, if you sign up and want to heal it and change out of the habits that you learned as a kid through survival, you have to go in and really shift that energy. And it's shifting it on a body habit form as well as energetically, because trauma is energetic. And so it gets stuck in the body. And when you are in trauma at a young age, a lot of times your out is a spiritual realm, whether it's I got to get off this planet, right. Whether it's suicidal ideation would be clinically, or I just want to go back to where I came from because this is too hard. And so a lot of people who experience trauma have a spiritual connection because that spiritual connection helped them survive their abuse or whatever they went through, whether it's in childhood or later in life. And so oftentimes when people start doing their healing work, because things are unmanageable, they don't like relationships they're in, they keep recreating something over and over again. When they start addressing those issues, the spiritual stuff comes up eventually. And what does this all mean? And why did I go through this? And what's the bigger meaning of what I had to face?
Right.
And then you get even further. Well, is there more than just this? And so, and then you blast off into a whole nother realm. And you can access that. And so all of these pieces really need to be addressed when you are working on healing yourself, because it's, what's happened to your body, what energetically has happened to your body, what's going on, and how do I heal it?
Yeah. And I'm looking at how do you support the healing with the spirituality without the spirituality becoming the escape from
or spiritual bypass.
Right.
And that's, I think, a very interesting piece to work with, because being in the spiritual realm is great and fantastic. And your connection to source, God, consciousness, however you define it for yourself, depending on your background, your religion, however you grew up, or however you identify that for yourself. But there's also something about, well, we live in this 3D realm and we've got these bodies and we've got these habit patterns in this body from where we came from that may be servicing, us well, or it's detrimental because the habits were based in survival. And so they both need to be examined, because you can't just live in the outside. You need to be functional, and we also have to deal with each other,
Right.
and
An
interact
intact
with,
ego to be a good human
exactly,
being. Yes.
to communicate and to be able to work at a job and deal with your coworkers or your spouse, your partner, whomever it may be. And so eventually, when you're doing healing work, you really need to look at all these aspects. And nutrition, what you're putting in your body. A lot of people who come from trauma have a lot of somatic stuff, whether it's autoimmune diseases, all different things, because the energy, managing the levels of stress, cortisol, like all the different things that happen when you're under stress and trauma, it has a huge impact on the body. So I also see in healing work, it's spiritual work, it's the body work, it's the nutrition, it's really looking what's coming in and out of your entire system. It has to be looked at holistically to really address all the different pieces. And then beyond that, past lives, other levels of consciousness, spiritual work, work with other beings that are not in body. There's a whole extent of potential healing.
Yeah.
And I meet my clients wherever they're at, because a lot of people may not have any connection to spirit. They grew up in, a very religious cults or different things where they're not connected, whatever the situation may be. So I really try to see people sort of on all realms, which is great to be able to have those perspectives, so that once someone heals some aspect of themselves, they can then, there's space, because I'm holding it, to start exploring other areas that they haven't been able to access because of trauma or whatever it may be. That suddenly, oh, now that I've healed this aspect, what about this or that? Whether it's another level of working on the body level or working on a spiritual level.
Great. Yeah. When I was looking at that, I thought, well, where do you start? And it sounds like it's specific to the individual where they need to start with where they're at. So I was looking at this earlier and we chatted about how it's so important for someone to have an intact, healthy ego before really going into some of the deeper spiritual work, because in that deeper spiritual work, you're kind of undoing layers of the ego, but you can't do that until that ego is healthy and intact. So with certain levels of intense childhood trauma, you would really need to just start with, let's heal this ego self. Let's heal this early childhood wounding that really just doesn't even leave space for someone to begin to come into their body.
Yes.
Until they address that. And we need to start with coming into the body before we...
Yeah, I mean, when you're in survival,
yeah,
you can't access much more. And in that survival space, the world's not safe. I'm not okay. I can trust no one. My entire experience being on this planet so far is that people are not supported, not loving, are abusive, and I can't be me, let alone I don't even know who I am, because I'm just in full survival and I am just trying to manage day to day.
Yeah.
There's no ability, and we know this with brain scans, and there's so much research, such incredible researchers out there that, when you are in that level of stress, your brain doesn't grow like normal, and different parts of the brain are larger than others because of trauma. And parts of your brains is overreacting, underreacting, depending on what's happening to you. So you're just in a battleground. And so you have to address that on a body level of how do you get this person out of survival so they can even make sense. And also your personality it's formed around who do I need to be to survive this environment. So as an adult, a person may have some crazy quirks, do some interesting things, but it worked really well in childhood, but it's not transferable as an adult. And that's where people are like, I can't have relationships. I can't seem to hold a job. I can't seem to on a real, or just really non-functional.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where it gets back to like, let's heal the ego. Like, let's make a, a healthy, functioning ego personality before we jump into some deeper, higher realms.
But
And
even in that, people are still saying, well, why did this happen to me?
yeah. Yeah.
And
They're still wanting to know those deeper spiritual
the bigger question.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you kind of address it. So it is integrated, right? You can approach that, say, it's both and, right? Let's look at that and let's bring that information of any access to the why into the purpose and the intention to heal within
Yeah,
that.
how do I make meaning out of this mess of a childhood I came from, or this work situation, or this relationship that was completely abusive, or that I got into and I don't know how I got there, or whatever it may be.
It does bring up the why.
It always does, because
Yeah, we want to know, like, why did this happen? Because that first layer of healing, I would imagine, is just recognizing, like, no, you didn't deserve this, right? There's nothing inherently wrong with you. You didn't come in to be punished or, really.
and that's hard to shake, especially depending on if you've been abused from a young age by adults in your life. And often that abuse accompanies a message of you're responsible for this. You're at fault for this. If you weren't like this, I would not abuse you. And so these real clear messages really get people stuck, because then they're adults and they feel responsible for everything that happened to them. And so that's hard to decipher.
I'm curious if you have specific modalities that you work with in those instances where it's like programmed into the subconscious mind that there's just something inherently wrong with you and it's your fault. That kind of deep sense of betrayal would really, what kind of deprogramming do you have?
Yeah, I mean, and there's just many different ways to go about that. I'm trained as a Gestalt therapist. I use EMDR. I also use, guided meditations, to breath work, to, I tell my clients to go do yoga classes, to get body work, massages, acupuncture, whatever you can to help support the system believe something different. Because then it becomes a habit pattern of this default network, a default of this is who I am and this is the box I'm in and I can't get out of it. There's no scene outside.
Anything functional.
Yes.
I can see it would destroy all relationships, including in the workspace. Yeah. So that rewiring, you really have to start there with that inherent worth and worthiness and lovingness within. Yeah. I'm so glad you have such a diverse toolkit. Because there really are a lot of healing modalities that address all that.
Yeah, and fantastic. And there's research behind a lot of these modalities. And there's research, whether it's meditation to yoga there's so much great research. And if you're interested in healing, there's so much out there, how to go about it. And I don't think there's one way. I think we are so unique and our bodies are so unique and everyone has a different path, and really honoring, okay, I want to do this or I want to do that, and building.
Different timing too, right? Different modalities offer a different kind of access point or a different level of safety. Because the other thing I was looking at when we were talking about diving into deeper spiritual work is that just that foundation of safety is so necessary. And so different healing modalities are going to offer safety to different people at different times in order to take that next step.
Well, and I think that's a huge transition when you start doing more spiritual work, really recognizing you are safe and everything is okay. But it takes a while to even get there, to feel safe enough, and really taking responsibility for your own healing work. And it's not necessarily about the practitioner, it's about, can I trust that whatever I am getting involved in will help me to my next steps, or help me in my awareness, or help me in my own healing, or whatever it is what your goals are, or the next relationship that's different than redoing it with someone that is not my father but looks like my father, or or my mother, or a combination, or whoever your caregiver is.
Creating totally new patterns. Well, I love that that's really what demonstrates that healing works to people, when you see the outcome in your life. You see, oh, I have created a whole different pattern in relationships. I'm attracting completely different people, not these same old abusive types of relationships, or codependent, or whatever it is. And then, oh yeah, and I am able to then progress in a new space in work and all those areas. When you really see the outcome, that's...
And it takes time. It sometimes takes time. And, a lot of people, when they first start working with me or come into healing work of any sort, is, how long will this take? How many sessions do we got? And it's like,
fix me right now.
you're 40 years old and you've been programmed for 40 years of this lifetime alone. What happened before you came here, if that is part of your belief system? Right. What are we tackling, And I don't think we can do it in 6 sessions. I'd love
to see that and know that up front,
But, I know insurance companies
results may vary
in 6 sessions, but that doesn't really work when you're looking at trauma, that it's all based in relationships. Trauma is relational. It's how you connect, how you disconnect, and how you see yourself, what your perspective is, how you orient in the world. And if you come from trauma, it is skewed how you see yourself. And that
your sense of
then
self
informs your entire universe, your entire world. And if you don't believe in yourself, then you will manifest that in different ways.
Failure.
That supports, oh, see, I can't trust myself. I don't know. It goes on.
I love that you're saying hello to that. Those deep, again, subconscious patterns around identity form your experiences in life, right? If you believe you're inherently a bad person, you're going to attract to you people that demonstrate that to you.
And sort of the nuts and bolts, sort of, clinically on a brain functioning level, when you are a child, you don't have your frontal lobe developed. You are in a young state and you're very susceptible. And so anyone who has kids think the craziest things. You're like, how did you come up with that? Well, and they make these grand, statements about the world at very young ages, which is ill-informed, but it's informed based on not having a frontal lobe developed. And so things happen when you're young, and then you, to try to make sense of the world, say your parents get divorced, for example, and you're like 6, 7 years old. Well, if you have a frontal lobe, you can say, well, my parents were not compatible anymore, and they really had a struggle with communication from the get-go, but they're finally just realizing it's best that they're not together, but they can't seem to even work it out, and they're having a big problem over it, and they're going after each other and they're attacking each other in front of me, as a kid. That you can understand as an adult looking back. But as a kid, you're seeing your parents fight. You're seeing all this stress. You're feeling a ton of stress in the system, but you have no frontal lobe to understand what's going on. So then you hold on to, maybe if I was different, I could keep them together. Or it's my fault that they're separating. Or and then you latch on to that,
Yeah.
and that becomes your worldview, and you keep that view. And there you are in my office, metaphorically, because I do everything online, at 35, 40, and you blame yourself for everything. And you're overly responsible, and you feel like you have to be the mediator because that's the role you tried to play to keep your parents together, or it just unfolds.
Yeah.
And
there would
so,
probably also be this constant underlying sense of anxiety around any conflict, right?
that's
Any
right.
conflict out there, because if it's your fault, you really don't want to have conflict happen at all.
Yeah, so you avoid any communication, anything, any distress.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to the lack of brain development that makes you have a view of things that you then believe is real and true at 6, 7, 8, whatever age. And then that becomes your reality as an adult. And you are then living out a pattern based on a reality that's from a 6-year-old.
Yeah, it's from that internalizing. When we're young children, I think anyone under the age of 7, maybe even under the age of 9, really just internalizes whatever's happening out there. It's happening in here, in your
Yes.
own heart, in your own body, and it generally is all your fault.
It's totally all your fault. And so then your life is informed by that, and then it's a habit of like, oh, just always responsible. Then you're over responsible at work, and then taking on more stuff than's really yours, or in relationship, taking responsibility for people's bad behavior has nothing to do with you. I mean, there's so many ways that this
Right, it manifests
unfolds.
oftentimes as poor boundaries when you're responsible for everyone else's stuff, or it manifests as just avoiding, like we said before, avoiding any conflict. It manifests in so many ways because that survival and identity have all been informed by something that it wasn't really about you, but it's all about us when we're little.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you disconnect from yourself, and then you forget who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which then kind of feeds into the spiritual world. You know, when we come here as a body, we forget who we are. And if you believe that, and if you believe in other lifetimes, you know, everyone has different, again, beliefs of what happened before we came here.
Yeah.
And that separation of self, it just gets reinforced. And then you are really disconnected from yourself, then from other people. And that's sort of the healing process, trying to recultivate back into awareness that you're whole, but you don't feel it and you don't experience it.
Yeah, and I'm looking again at just that access point, because when you and I talk about knowing yourself, well, for you, you're recognizing there's the spiritual knowing yourself as a spiritual being, but it has to start, if there's deeper childhood trauma, like it has to start with just knowing yourself as a human being first. You know, knowing what's yours and what's not in terms of those layers of pain and trauma, just knowing what your interests are in life.
Totally.
You know, when that survival is based on like navigating everyone else in order to feel safe, you don't even know who you are anymore. So just starting with that, who am I on that body personality level, is so important before diving into, oh yeah, but wait, there's more. And who am I on this deeper spiritual beingness level?
But then at the same time, that there's gotta be more than this. That real inner drive, even no matter what happened to you, there's gotta be more than this.
Yeah.
So the extremes sometimes really drives people into healing, because they know on some level, they don't know why or how, but their gut is like, it's gotta be better than this.
Yeah.
And there's gotta be
on a deep level.
Yes, there's gotta be more
about suffering all the time.
Yeah. And then, like, why did this happen?
Yeah.
And how do I manage this? And how do I integrate this, shift this, be different than what I was trained to be to survive this? So it's really cool, because some of the most spiritual people I've worked with, even though they haven't necessarily yet developed that spiritual aspect of themselves, it's so alive in their system, because it's dragging them to therapy, it's dragging them to yoga, it's dragging them to the healing of whatever, and they don't know why, but they can't really stop it. They just know that There's got to be
There's
something
got to be a better way.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I love that recognition that it is that deeper soul self that's saying, that's guiding, that's leading, that's inspiring the healing, because that deeper soul self knows that there is a deeper meaning to this, and that trauma is a doorway, a pathway to healing, and that's why you're here to to heal that. So I love how you said it, that spiritual self is dragging the person to to the yoga, or to whatever the healing modality is.
Yes.
Yeah, that higher self part of them is like, we're doing this, we got this.
Yeah, and people are like, I don't know why I came here to a workshop of whatever form it may be, but I'm here. And somehow I don't know why I'm here, but I just know that I need to be here, which is fantastic. But when you look at it, it's like something bigger is happening in the system of evolving, and just being in this field, for so long in different capacities, and watching people heal through energy work, through intuitive work, through physical modalities, to therapy, kind of the clinical world that I've also been in as well, sort of the academic sort of experiences that I've been part of. We're all trying to evolve and make some level of meaning. And meaning changes over time, but we're all trying to sort what we're doing on some level.
I love that for everyone, though, there's that question of, but why did this happen? Or, but what does this all mean? That is inherently built into us to seek that meaning and that deeper purpose, or that deeper information.
And I think in the process, people get stuck along the way. They get stuck in victimhood. They get stuck in, I don't deserve this. They get stuck in a mental framework. They get stuck in a body pattern. So there's different ways that people get stuck, and sometimes that stuckness is what prompts people to want to shift, to heal, make a change. And that is also very fascinating as part of this work as a therapist, and also in sort of the energetic world and energy work world. It's just, what is it? Is it illness? Is it cancer? Is it the autoimmune disease? Is it a family member passing? Is it everyone sort of has a moment of, oh, I can't do this anymore.
Can't take this anymore. Yeah.
And that's when things really open up into possibilities. And so often when people come to me, I ask them, why now?
Right.
Why are you
What's
interested?
the trigger point?
Why now? What has led you here? Because
I think you can't stand anymore. You're just finally done.
It's really informative. And it's like, oh, something has shifted where you have decided in your life that you deserve better or want something different, which most people have a catalyst on some level, which is fascinating to watch. I never necessarily had a catalyst myself because I've been in this world for so long, but it's watching people, okay, I want to change. I want to become more aware. I want to know why I'm doing this, or I want to have different glasses that I'm wearing every day.
Yeah. I'm no longer willing to put up with this level of stuck. Because I think at first the stuck is like where it's safe, right? That's this pattern.
It's what you know. Yeah. It's easy, even though it's horrible, but the horrible that you know is better than the unknown that you don't.
Safer than that other thing, yeah. And then at some point it's like, okay, I'm willing to step out of this safe because it's so uncomfortable. I just can't even anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
Some of us just came in ready to
do whatever.
Let's do it.
Yes.
The enthusiastic healers among us. Well, let's get into that past life piece, because this is what fascinates me. And I don't think I've addressed the topic of past lives in this podcast yet, and I've been wanting to. It's so rich, when you really come in recognizing, oh, I've been here before, like I've been here a lot. And my personality on a body level might be unique, but it's definitely informed by that, what I call soul personality, those lifetimes after lifetimes of experience, right? So when you're addressing someone's patterns, stuckness, things that you see, okay, there's a certain piece of that was informed by, established by childhood trauma. How often does it show up? Oh, you actually came in with that. This is an older pattern than just this lifetime. And are people open to addressing it on that deeper level?
Yeah, I think, again, I meet people where they are. Some people don't necessarily haven't sorted where was I before this? Where do I go after I lose this body? While other people have had near-death experiences, to having experiences where they are in contact with other realms, or have gone to someone who does past life regression, or someone who does intuitive readings on past lives, and have an experience where they really connect with what this person is reading in their space and talking about a past life they had, where it's like it dawns on them, oh, maybe there's more. And many religions, talk about the wheel, the other life. So it's been around. So there's figuring out where people stand, and a lot of people start doing the work, doing different work, healing work, and then it starts coming up. Wait, where were we before? Why would I choose to come here if that is in fact a choice? Why did I choose to come into these circumstances? Because they were pretty awful. I walked into a really awful situation. What am I learning? Have I done this before? And so then it opens up these possibilities of discussions. And in my work, I've been trained to read past lives and can work with clients on some other lifetimes where you're stuck, or you've done this before, or your mother was your brother in a previous life, and you've known each other. You've known each other long before you came here, which then opens up the possibility of, well, is there more to heal than just this life? Are we here to heal other lifetimes? Or is there information from other lifetimes that would be very important for this life that we can gather and use now? So there's access to so much information if you become aware of that, which is fascinating and amazing. And, the research is out there. We have access to so much more. This is not some woo-woo situation. This is research. Quantum physicists. There's so many incredible people on the ground doing the research, saying that there's much more to us than this, what we're looking at right in front of us. And so it goes into the realms of past lives. And okay, so I did 10 lifetimes where I'm learning this lesson, and I think I'm done with this lesson. And so I redid it in the first 20 years of my life, and I'm ready to move on from this lesson. I got it. I can check it off the list, and I can move forward in a new way. And also, this is how I make meaning of it. I was learning these things, and this is really important for me to learn, even though it was hellacious, even though it was terrible, even though I have now decided to cut off all contact from those that raised me because of what happened to me, and I'm unwilling to expose myself to these individuals anymore and their toxicity, whatever it may be. I've learned, and now I'm moving forward to my next lesson. So now what is it going to be?
Because there's always a new one. There's always a new lesson.
More to learn. We're constantly evolving. And we're driven to evolve on some level. And so I think that opens up the question of, there's many different ways to live on this planet. And there's some really awful, awful things going on this planet. It's like, what is this all about? Mm-hmm. And how do you make meaning? And then what were we doing before? And so what's fascinating is that I've even had clients specifically doing EMDR, let's give an example that way, who don't believe in past lives. We haven't necessarily talked about spirituality. We're just working on, I want to get through these 5 things. These are my goals in therapy. All right, let's just get through these. I want to shift this. I want to shift that. And suddenly they're doing EMDR, which is modality of
What does that stand for? I'm familiar with
eye
it.
movement reprocessing. And
So it's working with rewiring the brain through various movements of the eye and
and
bringing in different parts of the subconscious mind.
and it's a way of going back. Say you're in a car accident. When you're in the car accident, your frontal lobe turns off. You go into survival. You're just trying to get through whatever. You step out and suddenly you can't drive. You have all these symptoms. And so you're going back in to bring a frontal lobe to help process the emotions and feelings that you had to sort of cut off to manage just getting through it. There's so many different things. There's a ton of research.
So it kind of clears the traumatic imprint from the brain so you can
Yeah,
move forward from it and
the
not be stuck in
emotional
that
imprint.
moment.
Yes. And so it desensitizes the emotionality connected to whatever the event is or events. And it's great. I've been doing EMDR with clients for many, many years. I think over 20 years now. And so I'm, working with a client and suddenly they're having that they are in Victorian times and they're in a relationship with some gentleman and it's a pattern and suddenly they start processing a past life in another time and another place that is connected to some of the patterning that they're experiencing in this life. And fantastic. And so then that opens the door of, oh, maybe there's something more. So I've seen, because our bodies are amalgamation of wherever we've been.
All the past lives.
And so it shows up. And so I've seen people who are not necessarily spiritually oriented have some really fascinating experiences, or I bring someone through a meditation where suddenly something happens that is unexplained, sort of mystical, sort of oriented, and then they sort of open their eyes, they're back in the office, and it's like, what just happened? So it's all accessible in different ways. So if you're open to that, yeah, it's like, what do you got to heal here?
Right.
What are the other stuff that you need to heal? And what information can be really helpful to integrate from other lifetimes and bring it now into present time and access that?
I think that's so important because at first someone might feel a little bit of overwhelm, like, oh my God, I thought I was just healing some of the stuff from this lifetime and now I've got all these other lifetimes. It can seem overwhelming at first and just like, okay, that's TMI, like we're not even going to go there. But really what's happening right now is, like you said, the amalgamation. It's everything from our past lives is happening within this lifetime.
As long as you're aware of it.
Yeah, as long as so it really is still just about healing this lifetime. But then when you look at the why, when people are like, but why is this happening to me? Or, what does this all mean? Those past life experiences really inform what it is you're actually healing right now. Like these patterns are deep, they're old, these karmic patterns, or, why is it that came in with this mom that was like treating me this way, or that we seem to like always have an issue with each other. Well, that's so interesting. We've had all these lifetimes where we've taken turns, being the bully to each other, or
yes, and even if you don't believe that,
important.
how do you heal it in this lifetime? And I think that's where you meet as healers, or in the healing profession, whatever your modality is, it's like you have to match where someone is, because some people come to me and they come in and they do, again, the checklist. I want to do these 4 or 5 things. This is my goal. And then they're like, they meet those goals. Great. And I never see them again. And I'm sitting there. Well, there's all these other things. Right, of possibilities, because my awareness is much greater than maybe their level of awareness. And it's like, great, that's what you want to do. That's the healing you want. And you've hit your edge.
Yeah.
And maybe in 10 years, something else will pop up and you want to do another level or do something else. But, it's
such an important skill that you're demonstrating as a healer, to see where someone has reached their edge. You as the healer might see, oh, there's all this other stuff, but they're not ready for that. So
Or they want it, or if it means that if they want to do this, some part of them, whether it's conscious or not, knows that they have to change these relationships or quit this job or do these things that in a body, sort of on an ego level, it is too scary. I don't want to go there. I rather my comfort. I've done this work. My life feels better. I feel changed. I'm not in this relationship anymore. That's my goal, was to get out of this abusive relationship. I did that. I'm good.
yeah, now we're
And
just gonna
that's
leave
and
that for
that's
a while.
it. And that's it. And so
Yeah.
and then I think earlier on in my career I was just get really frustrated because it's like, but there's so much more.
Yeah,
But
don't you
then
know
it's
that?
yeah, and then it's like, no, they don't.
They
They
don't.
don't at all. And that's okay. And so I think that's really comes back to, why are we here? How do we individually make meaning? And how free do we want to be? And freedom means work and change and stepping out of comfort. And comfort is really hard to resist.
Yes. Such a trap.
And not everyone wants to blow up their life.
Right.
And not that you have to blow up
Yeah.
your life, but metaphorically, things have to change. You have to do things differently to get out of the habit pattern, to get out of your own way.
Yeah. It's funny when you said blow up your life, because I'm like, that does sometimes happen, but
But it doesn't have
like,
to.
sometimes healing, especially when it's on so many levels all at once, like your whole life change, everything changes, and it kind of does look
But
like
you
your
don't have
life
to
blew
be
up.
starving, and you don't have to like sell all your stuff, and that's not necessarily spiritual to sell all your goods. It's really, it's like, what does that mean? And for some people, change is actually abundance and joy. And you've lived in stress and trauma and depression, and that you're so used to it that joy is too far of a stretch.
Maybe just a little
Having
bit
this
more happiness.
fun, it's like, oh, I can't have fun because anytime I had joy, I got punished.
Right. I did
So
attract too much negative attention, or
that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so it's all relative. And I think that is the fun part about having multiple perspectives, is that the ability to see people where they are, whether it's on a body level or on a much grander level, and seeing what level of awareness that people can have, receive, and being able to work with that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Which it may be very different than my own experience and my own work and my own, because I'm all about freedom.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's just a great point of clarity to notice that as healers, we might have a certain capacity for awareness or healing or freedom or joy, love, all of these things. But we don't have to force that. We can't force that.
It's not
on
fair and
anyone
it's
we're working
unkind.
with.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just noticing, we can encourage, like, would you like to up the bar just a little bit in this area, or maybe just a little bit over here? And some folks are going to be ready to blow up their life, and others it's just, no, I just want to make this little incremental, this is the amount of change that I am ready for right now. And to increase that bar of joy a little bit, or
That's
to
right.
increase that bar of, I call it havingness, of whatever all the things are, the goodness of life.
Exactly.
But yeah, when you come in as like the freedom soul, you're like, doesn't everybody want this?
No, they don't. And they shouldn't be forced to. And it's not fair.
Yeah.
And also, what may not seem big for you may be huge to another person. Just that subtle shift in perspective can change someone so dramatically. And that's enough.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing, and that's great. More power to them.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's such a great point of learning for me. Because I tend to be the healer that's like, look, and then they're like, whoa.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's a lot because you're coming up against all these protective mechanisms.
Yeah.
That are like, are you kidding me? I'm not going to let go of this because this helped me survive these really horrific situations. And so that's not helpful.
Yeah. Too threatening. You're much less threatening. That's so great. So In your work, do you have ways of helping people work through past life information, or how does that show up for you? I know a lot of people work through that with either hypnotherapy or just past life reading. How does that come in, and do you talk about forgiveness or completing
Yeah, and I
patterns or
Yeah, and it can look different ways. I mean, even having people just go inside themselves and look for themselves, their own past lives, and what intuitively they feel. Or I read them and I actually, read their past lives and help them integrate what is it they're learning, what is it they need to bring in, what's information that's helpful to them, and doing some healing work just to integrate that energy in a new way. So it can look many, many different ways.
Yeah, again, back to the each person, it's going to be different. Yeah, I think it would be so fascinating to see past life information integrated into psychotherapy work more. I mean, I love that you're doing it. I wonder how many psychotherapists do include that level of information, and not everybody
Sure.
is going to be interested in it. So it's not like everybody has to address that level. But to me, it's like missing a big piece of the puzzle if we're not looking at that.
Well, and some people can't look at it. And so often I energetically look at people when I'm working with them, regardless. I'm looking at their body, how they hold trauma, how it energetically shows up, psychically, mentally, how these patterns get, regurgitated from old stories. And so people may not be aware of past lives, but I may see something and I may actually address it without addressing it.
Right, like addressing it as if it is this lifetime, because that is the pattern.
Yes. And so that's where I pull and again meet people where they are and what they can hear versus other people. They show me a past life, we're talking about something, and if they're open to it, oh, something just came in. This is, what's happening. This is also the same. A lot of people I've worked with have had loved ones pass. And so if someone comes in and they want to communicate information, if they're open, I'll say something, or I'll inadvertently, through another way, talk about what this person who's passed wants to communicate. And I communicate it in a way that they can hear it. That's not, oh, I'm talking to, your father who's passed or your partner who's passed, and how direct I'm speaking to them.
Yeah, bringing it through in the way that's
Can
appropriate.
hear. Yeah, and beneficial, that can be integrated.
Yeah. I was looking at how, too, with past life information and present time trauma, just how you said several times, it always comes up, that question for people, but why? There's like, why? But why is this? Why was I born into this traumatic situation? Or why did this abuse happen? And of course, as a child, how we address, well, as a child, it's internalized and it's because you're bad, is the answer to that why. And then as an adult, once we have the frontal lobe, we can start to create different meaning out of that.
Yes.
But how does that happen if we're not including that past life information? Because to me, that's like, oh, that's the bigger picture, right? I think that why really is kind of like the gateway for people to start to look at, I'm not just this body, I'm this soul, I've had experiences before. Sure. This is like an ongoing story. This is like part 7 in a 25-act play or whatever it is. And those past lives have so much to answer to that question of the why and the meaning of it.
Sure. Well, and I think that's where your intuition comes in, where you have gut feelings about stuff. You may not know where it's coming from or what information. You may be just connecting in without knowing you're connecting in. I mean, that's why I think everyone's different way of getting that information, whether it's like, oh, every time I take a shower, something happens, I just get this information about what I need to do next in my business, or when I'm on my bike, when I'm out for a ride, or when I'm out on my motorcycle, some things just sort of come in. I have these ideas. I don't know where they're coming from. So you don't have to have any spiritual background. You just have these insights, because somehow you're connecting into consciousness where there's infinite information and possibilities. And some people are aware they're doing that. And then other people, it's like, yeah, I just, every time I do my yoga practice, I always come away away with something new that I need to be doing or shifting in my life. Or, people who are not spiritual at all and then have a near-death experience. And suddenly they pop into all this more information, or a loved one passes and they're hearing them. And they're like, what is going on? I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe, what is going on? And so people are accessing, but they may not be conscious of it. And that's okay.
That's great. Yeah, because we don't necessarily have to have this like specific modality in order to access that. A lot of people are just naturally doing it anyway. Like you said, in any kind of way that they're really getting fully present, whether they're getting out on their motorcycle or hiking in the woods or yoga.
It doesn't have to be, totally. It doesn't have to be couched as spiritual. It's just, how do people exist and how do they connect into themselves? People call it their higher self, or there's so many different ways, different words that people use. It's like, how do you connect into your intuition? How do you connect into a bigger knowing? And for some people, that means God. That means whatever your tradition, whatever your exposure is, or however you explore to then define for yourself. That's what's really cool about all of this. It's just, people are unique. They come from very different backgrounds and experiences. And depending on if you can shift out of whatever's happened to you, you really have more and more access to yourself and information. I mean, that's what's really cool about some of these young kids that are coming in now. They don't have all the baggage. They really know that they're connected to spirit. They really are connected to themselves and all of their information long before. I mean, you see these prodigy kids that, are opera singers at 5 years old. It's like, clearly they have access to information long before. 5 years, to learn how to be an opera singer, it just doesn't.
They're coming in with their soul memory intact, and they're
That's
like,
right.
I already know how to do this.
That's right. So it's really amazing. And to see what is possible, and we're just seeing it more and more. And then to even get more esoteric, all the galaxies that are out there, all the universes that are out there, and people who have experiences with extraterrestrials, beings, connecting to loved ones who are no longer on the planet and in spirit. And there is so much out there, so much possibility, and really learning, we're here for a reason of some sort, whatever that meaning is to you. And then how do I be in control of this?
Control meaning on the level of like ownership
of my life, and I'm responsible for what I'm creating, whether it's whatever happened to me then, now. I am responsible, and I'm actually in charge of making meaning out of this.
Yeah. I get to be the captain of the ship.
Totally. And it's not a blame. It's my fault that I was that's not the piece. It's what's going on? What lessons am I learning? What is this about? And how do I couch this?
Yeah.
So that I can move forward and be more myself, more connected to all that I am, separate from what's happened to me, and really embody myself and show up with all my faculties.
Yes, to no longer be defined or have the identity be wrapped up in what happened to you, but rather who you are as the being, so that, that you can create, you can make new decisions, you can not be stuck in any kind of a victim mode, but just, here I am, here's my creative power, this is what I'm choosing to create. And I can rewire the brain.
And that's the cool thing. We know the research. We can change. We can grow. Our brains can change. And healing looks so many different ways. And there's so much research now going on at Mount Sinai, Johns Hopkins, around accessing beyond. And when you're in that witness state, you can have a different perspective. And I think that's part of the healing work, is not being in it, but being able to witness and have perspective to whatever happened to you, to then be able to have some context and shift that perspective, so you're not in it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
It's such a huge part of healing is just owning that witness space. That's your awareness as a being so that any of the traumas that happen to you, you're not frozen in that experience being who
yes.
you experienced yourself as being in that moment so that you can be who you are, see that experience and begin to let it go.
And this is hard work.
Yeah.
This is very difficult work at times. It doesn't have to be difficult, but it can be really challenging to,
Approach
and
territory that doesn't feel safe or
totally. And it's like, if you take the theory that we choose what we're doing, it's like, if we really choose, we're responsible for our parents. Why did we choose our parents? Especially if you come from abusive family or really challenging dynamics. It's like, in the ultimate, we are our own creators, creating with the universe or an aspect of the universe or however you view it. Wow.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
How do I stomach? I chose
Right.
this.
That's a tough pill to swallow.
Totally, if you want to fully take responsibility, wow, like somehow I chose this. I don't know. And boy, that's a lot to stomach.
Yeah.
And
What's
what am I
exciting is that I
learning?
get to discover, like if we just give ourselves permission to go, okay, but what if I am the creator here and not to go into it from self-blame, like, well, I made a
No,
shitty decision
not
to
at all.
create this, but just curiosity. Let me just discover what was I really looking at creating here for myself? What was I
Yes,
interested in learning? What was I interested in overcoming? What
yes,
parts of my soul creative power was I interested in reclaiming?
yeah,
What karmic
yes,
patterns was I interested in undoing or completing or becoming aware of even? Because some of it is just bringing it to consciousness. So much of our embodiment experience, of our incarnational experience, is about bringing to consciousness what is buried in the subconscious mind. And it's hard to ignore when it's right in your face, like with a family member.
absolutely. And I think there's a piece of, it's a lot of the people I work with, it is about stable housing, just being able to have a stable job because of whatever's happened at the chaos that they grew up in. Like
Yeah.
that's where your focus is. And
Yeah.
that is okay.
Yeah.
That is
To see how
part,
capable you are, though, of
yes,
changing that, of despite, having this
whatever
early
happened.
life imprint of total chaos and instability and ungrounded, who knows what's
Yes,
going to happen, you can create something new and
yes.
different. You can create a safe space, you can create stability, grounding, cohesive, healthy
Yeah,
life.
and I think it's really important not to blame. Really in the last 10 years, so much is being revealed of the underground of trauma and what humans do to each other and war crimes and the extent that people have had to survive growing up in cults, growing up as, victims of trafficking for years. I've seen a lot of stuff over the years in different populations, different people. I've worked different places in the US, and just devastation and just pain and just survival. And I think that's what I love about doing this work, is that everyone's so human and unique, and to be able to see the spark and the light in people even if they can't see it themselves,
Yeah.
and holding that space. I've lost people, clients, to addiction. I've seen some pretty awful things, and what our society does to people who are traumatized. And so just being able to kind of hold a space of wherever you are, whatever you're dealing with, supporting there at whatever level of awareness, and holding that on a sort of clinical level, on a spiritual level, on a body level, that's important to me.
Yeah.
Of really seeing people where they are, because they've had a long history before they've shown up in my office and have done some courageous things to even show up. So, that's, and
So
I,
true. It's a
it's
it's a big deal for someone in a space of
to ask for help.
frozen, stuck trauma to even to just take that step to reach out and see someone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think it's being able to see all of it, and also knowing, just because I see all of it or see a bigger maybe spectrum than one is able to see in themselves, I'm still holding that space of they're here to heal. They're doing the best they can. They're evolving however they need to evolve. This is what they're working on, and maybe this is what they're going to be working on for the next 10, 20 years, and that's okay.
Yeah. Are you seeing any more larger leaps? Are there people making bigger growth leaps than maybe they used to? Because I'm just looking at how the energy on the whole planet is changing. There's a lot more, I would say, healing energy,
Yes.
light, whatever you want to call it. There's just a lot more access to awareness and
If you
growth.
sign up for it, absolutely. If you sign up and say, I want to get through this stuff, I'm seeing some of my clients leaps and bounds in awareness. If they're wanting that, if that is accessible to them and they feel supported to access it. Like I said, these younger kids that are coming in, they already have access. They already know, they already can tell you who their parents were before or what you were to them in a past life. They are conscious of, oh, I know you. I've already worked with you before. More and more of my clients are aware that we've worked together in other lifetimes. And because I always feel like every time I work with someone, there's something there.
Yeah, there's
Or
a familiar.
or it would never have happened. And so people have more access and people are waking up. And some of the things I did 20 years ago just feel so outdated and feel just so slow. And the stuff that I'm doing now in my own work, it's just so quick, so rapid. And if you have the capability to access immediate, quick change and shifts, it is there. It is definitely there, which is so cool to be part of.
Yeah. It's just exciting and interesting to me to look back. Like you said, 20 years ago, some of the modalities, it might seem like you're working at a snail's pace now,
Yes.
but that's where collective consciousness was at. That's where the collective field of access to greater awareness was at. And now it's opening up fast. So
Yes.
for
And
anyone
yes.
willing, and they have to have that, yes, on their own deeper soul level, but for anybody willing, it's quick. It's, the word quantum has come up so much in
Yes, absolutely. And what I love is because of my academic background, what's very cool is all the research that is cutting edge, that is proving that we are much more than this and we're able to change. And so the research is also catching up with the work you and I have been doing for many, many years that has not,
a little slower, but it gets there.
yeah, it's not been documented and
Yeah.
sort of that prove it. And we're
Yeah.
now proving it. So that's very cool for individuals that are coming from a very analytical thinking mind, of opening that door to them of, oh yeah, this is not just fly by night woo-woo stuff. This is real. This is real.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true. I think a lot of those perceptions are shifting for sure. That prove it has happened for a while, but also I think with the shift in overall consciousness happening, more people are like, oh yeah, of course. There's
Yes.
less of those filters of the analytical mind, and it just on an intuitive level just makes sense.
I enjoy it because I do have an analytical mind and I am a skeptic at heart. That's why I try anything and everything that I can, because I want to prove that something's happening. And so it excites me that the esoteric is research based now. It's all coming out. So it's all happening in real time.
Super fun. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing this time with me today.
Of course.
It's been super fun to see you again and just hear your perspective on this blend of the world of psychotherapy that's more analytical with the intuitive. I think that's so important to have those worlds bridged and merged in a way, be able to offer people a super holistic support for their whole being, body, mind, and spirit. It's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yay. Thanks for joining us today on The Higher Vibe, everyone. We'll see you next time. Hello. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you did, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Share this with friends. Really helps us out and we really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you next time.